Welcome. This is Roots Revival Interfaith. This is our Sunday service. We believe in a combination of using wisdom in the universe, breaking down into numerology, astrology, and intuitive intelligence to get all of the healing and direction that you need in life to stay not only on your own life path, but also to heal people from that path of wisdom. And so we have every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, here on YouTube at Ask Ivy, TikTok at Ask Ivy, our Sunday services, and you can download these afterward anywhere that you get a podcast. If you've missed earlier services, you can also go here on YouTube up in the playlist. It says Roots Revival. Just hit that and you can listen to previous weeks. So welcome, everyone. I'm Pastor Ivy Rivera. I'm a psychic medium. I am here with Danny Johnson, Reverend Danny, our numerologist, Reverend Christina Del Rey, our astrologer, Reverend Paul Casey, healing arts, jack of all trades. Today, we are talking about healers and lightworkers. I just felt that it was time to give you guys a little TLC. Lately, like all of this previous year, for example, lightworkers and healers have been especially stressed. And this is going to be helpful for everybody, even if you don't consider yourself a light worker or a healer. Today will help you to pay attention and use some tools we're going to discuss in self-protection and wisdom. Wisdom in regards to your energy output and where you might be overgiving, okay, or getting stripped and drained. So we are going to discuss a few key areas that most healers and light workers are struggling with around this time. What we do here at Roots Revival is interact with you guys. So feel free to type in the comment section an area of your life that you're struggling with, a question, a comment that you have on what we'll be discussing here today. Feel free also to start posting your prayer and healing requests for you or for others. We will be getting to those a little bit later on in the service. And I'm going to talk for a couple minutes, then I'm going to open this up to Reverend Danny and Christina and Paul also. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to talk to you guys about as healers and lightworkers is the understanding that you don't get an easy ride. This isn't the kind of thing that you get to come to earth to do. It's not a calling on your life, typically without a lot of difficulty. It is a system of learning and then mastery. You have to learn certain skills and then you have to apply those skills. After that, you are able to help others. And while we see a lot of people popping up, especially after the big awakening, in this previous year with the pandemic and whatnot, we see a lot of people popping up and they want to say, I'm a light worker, I'm a healer, I'm an empath. I do this and that and the other now. And that's fine and that's great. And I think we all need to be remembering that if we are here having a human experience, we are here to heal other people. That's true. But when we have that calling on our life to a heightened degree, it tends to not be such a charming thing. We tend to not be able to just wake up one day and decide that we're going to do it, for entertainment purposes or otherwise. It is sort of a brutal walk. And usually from the time of birth, we find that we're born into difficult situations. So whether it be abandonment or abuse in regards to our family, a really stressful, toxic environment, a lot of people had no childhood at all. It could be that you were born with some type of a disease or a disability and you really had to struggle. Maybe you're a minority, you were marginalized. There could be a million things that happen, and it doesn't have to all come from childhood, but that is typical to see. So whatever your difficulties have been, or whatever they continue to be, I think it's really important that today we take a little time to acknowledge that that's normal. If you're a light worker, if you're a healer, that we're all going through the fire and that it's sort of a testing process. It's kind of the universe's way of saying, okay, you have to walk the walk before you can talk the talk. And it really shouldn't be done otherwise, in my opinion. So we don't want to give too early. You know, we don't want to assume that we made it. We don't want to cut the journey short. We have to go through that sort of grueling part of the process, do the shadow work, spend the time, understand that healing comes in waves and ebbs and flows. One day you'll be feeling like you're doing great with your healing journey, and then the next day you feel like you just got your teeth kicked in and you don't remember ever having accomplished anything with your healing at all. And it's like you're starting from square one. We have to remember that all of this is normal. And it's unfolding, and it will continue to unfold for the rest of our lives. I also think it's important to take the time to value yourself and everything that you've gone through. It's important to pat yourself on the back and say, you know what, I'm not just going to focus on how hard it is, how painful it is, how bad I feel, how much work I still have left to do. Right? Especially when it comes to triggers and trauma responses and things. I think it's important to acknowledge where we are and understand that it's okay and that there will be more. With each new layer, there is more wisdom that comes to light. And we don't want to see it as like a race to the finish line, right? We want to understand that through each part of the process, we understand more about ourselves, about the universe, and how we can help other people. So please don't forget to apply and to take the time. But that process of going through the fire is absolutely normal for healers and light workers. And other people may look at you and say, oh my God, you know, your life, it's crazy what you go through. I've never seen anything like this. That's pretty common to hear. Okay, I also want to talk about unconditional love. A lot of you have been asking me lately, what do I do about not being able to come from a place of unconditional love? Whether it be that you're fed up with other people's behavior or greed, or people feel entitled to take and strip from your energy like vampires. If you feel bombarded, that's not a good feeling. You know, feeling as though you're out in the world and you're just here to mind your own business and do the best job you can do in helping others. But people keep coming at you with such a sense of entitlement and neediness, you can really stop liking people very, very quickly. And it's for those of you who are also working with spirit all the time, you may find that that's stressful as well, because as your intuitive intelligence is increasing, as your healing abilities are increasing, as you're being of service to the light more and more frequently, you attract a lot of negative kickback. You attract a lot of even paranormal activity and kickback. And you can end up not feeling comfortable working with the spiritual world as well. So it can really be overwhelmingly stressful and lonely. We need to remember that coming from a place of unconditional love also requires that you give self-love. It's not just about giving unconditional love out to everyone else in the world, right? Or being openly available at all times. It's about looking at what you need, where your boundaries need to be, and what you deserve, and setting that first. It's kind of like saying, put on your air mask. You know, if the plane's going down, before you worry about everybody else, or you can't pour from an empty cup. It's this idea. So you have to take care of you first. That will make it easier for you to give unconditionally to others. One of the other things I would highly recommend is that you detach. Stop looking at people's behavior. Stop looking at people as though they are people. Try to understand them as being wide open vessels, channels. They are spiritual creatures having a human experience. A lot of people aren't good at this. A lot of people don't even know this. And so they are manipulated, just as we can all be. Because they're not mindful, because they're not in ownership of their energy, they're probably being manipulated by lower and darker energies in the universe more than they're being used by positive, higher up energies in the universe. And that could be us at any point. We all slip. And so try to see people more as energy and energy absorbers and open channels and vessels than actual people. It can help a lot in detaching, and it makes it more about them. That's their stuff. That's their problem. That's their lack of mindfulness, and less about what their intentions are or how they're misbehaving. Okay, there is another easy solution to this, and the combination of the two should make it so that you can, get further on your journey here. And that is that you stop seeing everything in such a literal way. You're not working with a client. You're not helping someone in the grocery store. You're not taking a stressful training, because you feel that that's a requirement for you to be accepted out in the world as a light worker. You are doing it to be of service to the light. We have to remember that everything we do, whether it's out in public or it's behind closed doors, whether it's with your thoughts, it's with your energy emotionally and where you're putting your time and attention, everything we need to do at all times should be only to be of service to the light. So we need to look at the greater good, the higher vibration in everything, and just focus on that. Tune everything else out. Okay, the third thing I wanted to talk about, which sort of actually really ties in with the last thing, is about self-protection. And a big part of self-protection is understanding how to tap into wisdom. It's not enough to say that we're going to set boundaries with people or situations or with our calendar. It's important to make sure you are coming always from a place of intuition instead of emotion, a place of intuition instead of just logic, and using things like divine timing, okay, knowing when you're supposed to be somewhere, you're supposed to do something, understanding how to stay in your lane, not overgiving. So many of us are struggling because we're not doing what we're called to do. Yes, you're called to be a healer. Yes, you're called into light work, but you're not called to do everything. You're not called to be God. You're not called to be responsible, even if it bothers you, even if it keeps you awake at night and you emotionally feel overwhelmed and like you want to help. That doesn't make it yours. That just means you're out of control with your energy. Come from that place of intuition. Come from that wisdom and divine timing. Stay in your lane. Understand what your life contract is. Know what your purpose is here. Don't get washed away with everything else. And understand that a lot of people that come to you, opportunities that come to you, situations that arise are coming to distract you from where your focus should actually be. Start seeing everything as the test that it is. Don't assume it's for you to take on. Be more careful in your discernment. And there are free mini classes on all of this. Okay. If you're on YouTube at Ask Ivy, go into the playlist of free mini classes and watch those if you struggle in these areas. Okay, so those are just a few of the things I wanted to touch on. Whoever wants to jump in, you guys can do so at this point. I just also want to remind everybody to please post your questions, comments, areas where you need help. We'll be talking about that, as well as prayer requests and healing requests. And feel free to leave donations. Thanks so much. Who wants to get started?
I can jump in. I'm really glad we're having our sermon today is focused on healers and light workers. One of the things that really came up when meditating and praying in preparation for today is that for light workers and healers, the things that we see, the things that happen to us, nothing is as it seems. Like that is like the theme of my fully delving into light work. And this is across the board in just about every aspect of life. The thing is, even like when things are good, when I say that nothing is always as it seems, there's always something behind the veil. There is something else happening. There is someone working on our behalf. There are situations that are being worked out on our behalf that we might not know about, but that are happening. And what we see visually in front of our eyes is you know, like that meme of the iceberg where you might see this much, but there actually is this much actually on the surface. That feels like the experience of one of the major experiences and one of the constant ways of being as a light worker. And the thing is, because very often we see and understand and hear, and especially when we go through training with you to understand the language of spirit, we know that there are processes happening that not very many people might see or recognize. So when in community, with family members, with whomever, coworkers, whomever they might be, something might look one way, but we know that something is actually brewing, potentially for the good, potentially for something to be watchful for. But that is the reality of what it means to be a light worker. And it is that is why, as light workers, connecting with our guides and connecting with the ancestors, listening, when you speak about discernment, Ivy, that is where all of that comes into play. Because if we take what is just happening
at face value, at
face value, not only will we be misled, but we will be going against our own intuition as well. Mm-hmm. And as a light worker and as a healer, being comfortable in being maybe one of the only, especially when we meet our tribe, when we meet our soul group, they'll be able to see things as well. And it's wonderful to be in those spaces, because the things that we are seeing and able to intuit, members of our soul group can see and intuit as well. And so being comfortable with maybe 3 people in your circle, in your life, seeing what's really happening, even if 50 people might see it in a different way, and it doesn't make them any less valuable, it doesn't make them any less, doesn't make their humanity any less real, but it's just a matter of how we must operate, because we could end up either putting ourselves in a situation we shouldn't be. We could end up potentially not losing, but jeopardizing an opportunity in different ways, different aspects, because we see like the 3-step process that's happening, even though it might look a different way just at face value. So as healers, it's just important to be able to live in and sit in that duality and know that things are being worked on our behalf.
I love that so much. And then Christina or Paul, whoever wants to jump in next, I just want to say real quick, I love that you mentioned the soul group and how members of your soul group, members of your tribe can see what you should be doing. No, we don't want to put that above spirit or our own intuition, of course, but they'll catch you. And it is a huge difference if you want to know who members of your soul tribe are, watch for those who have your back. Watch for those who intuitively know what's going on with you, what the next step is going to be. They protect you. They have the warnings for you. Sometimes before it's even right up in your face or you catch it. That's amazing. So true.
I love what Danny said about like the iceberg, how things are happening behind the scenes, because, we only know our own experience. And if you think of the brain like a computer, we only have the data that we have experienced, but there's so much that we can't see. So your mind, you don't know what's going on. So you have to trust. And I know that we talked about that in the past, that, we have to kind of trust that things are going to be put in a way that are going to line up so that we are on our highest and best. It reminded me when you were saying, Ivy, about how your soul group will have like your back kind of reminded me of like, I don't know, we went through a couple of years where we still talked once in a while, but you were kind of doing your thing. I was doing my thing. And every now and then I would have a dream about you and I would contact you and I'd be like, so I don't know what's going on, but here's what I dreamt. And you'd be like, oh yeah. Okay. Makes sense. So, Spirit will, it will, even if, you lose contact, if that's like somebody in your soul tribe, Spirit's going to let you know to let them know. And that happened quite a bit with Ivy and I.
We still do that all the time.
We do.
And even like one of the things that Christina and I accidentally do is like predicting who. You predicted Paul a year before he ever showed up, and predicting, I want to say it's a lot about relationships, being able to look at each other and see like who's going to support the other person, who's not going to be supporting the other person. And I think we have to remember that in dealing with other people, it's through relationships where we have our biggest burdens. And it's through relationships where we have our biggest breakthroughs. And so to be able to know that just by being near each other or not even near each other, it really is incredibly helpful.
It's amazing, really. And I don't know, we were kind of talking about, you mentioned detachment, which I am learning. It is a skill, especially when you have a lot of water in your chart, or, you're a person who is very empathetic. It's difficult to detach, but I do love what you said about thinking of people as energy. That really, that's something I'm definitely going to try. And, when you are in the fire yourself, and it's very difficult to help somebody when you haven't walked a mile in their shoes. And, when you're in your 20s, you think you know it all, and then you realize you don't, you know what I mean? Because then you have more experiences. So as much as walking through the fire kind of sucks, it is for a purpose. It's so that we can know what other people feel and we can help them through that as well. I know that you and I are doing a shadow work meeting. I don't know if we're calling it a class.
We have a mini class. Paul, what is our official title?
Shadow Work Part 2, Secrets, Contracts, and Karma, I believe.
Secrets, Contracts, and Karma, Shadow Work Part 2. What's the date on that?
June 2nd.
June 2nd. Yeah, Christina and I, 8 p.m. Eastern.
I'm super excited about that because I've learned a few tricks to detachment and, kind of looking at things the other way. Everybody, I don't know, like most people who know me know I'm really big into meditation. So that is super helpful. And sometimes, if your family is, your house is too crazy, work is crazy, you might need to just take time in your car. Yeah. Take a breath, stare at a tree. You have to do whatever. You have to make your environment so that you can, get back in touch with spirit in whatever way that is. And I know I've done a ton of meditating in my car or just sitting in my car and, just to chill out because, even when the kids were little and you didn't get 5 seconds to yourself, even to go to the bathroom, the car. And yeah, so I don't know. I think that I'm super excited about the shadow work. And, with the astrology chart too, sometimes you can, there's certain things you can predict. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we can predict that the energies are coming. And sometimes that is helpful as well.
Yeah, I think it's, as a light worker, I don't know what I would have done all these years if I wasn't paying attention to my astrology. Numerology is something I discovered a little later down the road when I saw patterns following me. I started to piece together how important numerology was too, but astrology was far more discussed, and it was there early on in my teenage years. And then I met Christina, maybe 10 years ago. And, I was always looking into it, but some of the biggest life changes I ever went through happened, thank God, after Christina and I started working together. And I think that if I didn't know not only when those things were going to hit, but what that was going to look like in my life, understanding it was up to my free will, it was up to me what I was going to do with it. But it was destiny charted that it was going to come. And without that information about when it was going to end, I think I would have gone bonkers. I think I would have really lost my mind and just, deteriorated into some state of despair. It really helps to know what is written for you.
Yeah, it's also very karmic too, so there's certain things you can control, but there's certain things that you really can't. You have to go through the experience. But it's good to know that there's an end point. Yeah. And I know somebody asked on here, I was looking, how do you know you're a healer? The astrology chart helps with that too. It's not the only way. I know that for me, I just had to help people, and I know I'm in the right place. I work with students and I'm, helping them emotionally and with schoolwork. And I know that that's the right place for me. But you just kind of, I don't know, like I always felt like I had to help people. It was just something like sort of inborn in me. And that, that probably goes to my Pisces moon. So if you know your moon sign, that helps a lot too, to know your astrology, what houses your planets are in, and, what your life lessons are.
And I just want to say last week, we talked quite a lot about that too. Danny spoke about the numbers, your life path number, or your, what is the other one?
The expression and heart's desire numbers.
And what are the most common for light workers or healers to have?
The most common are 7, where the number 7 is probably one of the most spiritually charged.
I'm a 7.
7, no, that makes sense. 7 is the number associated also with like some of the solitude that's needed in order to do some of the shadow work and the internal work. Number 7, life path, expression, and heart's desire number. Folks are intuitively know when to go inward in order to do the work. Sometimes like with some of the more relational numbers, like 2 or 6, might struggle a bit to separate from the pack in a sense, in order to do the work. But 7 intuitively knows that as well. Also the 11. I know that my heart's desire and Ivy's heart's desire number is 11, which also is a master number and also one of the most spiritually charged numbers. And specifically, which is something we can it relates to something that people go through, especially when they themselves or loved ones are ill. Or things that happen in childhood, especially specifically when the number 11 is in the heart's desire position. That is where the number 11 generally is when people take in information. There's information coming in spiritually, empathically, psychically, through our bones, through our pores, and trying to make sense of it. Also, there are some deep experiences that happen, some painful things that happen specifically in childhood that show us who we want to be and the types of environments that we want to nurture and will allow ourselves to be in as adults. And because we, as young people, without control over our environment, we see, it's interesting. It feels like the 11 heart's desire number folks were like the little kids who saw the adults and were like, I don't know about that one. About that one. And it's like you see like the children. I always wonder about the numerology of children when that that one little intuitive child, when they see an adult or they see a person and they're just like they won't give up. The old soul, they
to program. Yeah, and adults respond to them. I've even seen this in astrology too, where it could be in your chart early where at a certain age, adults, even your parents, potentially may reject you. They find you offensive because you've reached that level of adulthood, or they embrace you and you're always hanging out with the adults instead of the other kids. So we could see a split reaction. That's fascinating.
Yeah. And it was interesting because when I was little, one of the things that I loved most about Mom, many things about her, was that she always listened to me when I spoke about my feelings about things, because I was watching and she could watch. She knew when my wheels were turning and she'd say, Jenny, okay, so what are you thinking? What are you feeling? And when I would tell her, Mom, this person is this person's that, I don't like this. And she would honor the things that I said. And that really helped me to develop my intuition. And as light workers and as healers, when we have, it doesn't necessarily every person in our lives, but if we have, 1 or 2 people who affirm that strong sense of intuition that is helpful for us. And especially like when thinking about like the expression number 11 in any position in terms of numerology, but especially the heart's desires, like at our core, it's no coincidence that and for anyone whose loved ones may have been ill growing up, or anyone who grew up either ill themselves or had ill parents, that is definitely a part of a healer's life contract work. I really feel in my soul that I agreed to be my mother's child, knowing that at 4 years old, she would become as ill as she was. And at 4 years old was when that, in terms of, I feel like being like the medical intuitive, anyone who might feel and sense when someone around them is not well. And again, in terms of the way that Ivy and Christina were describing, you don't even necessarily have to be in physical proximity, but can feel and sense or even dream when someone isn't feeling well. I know that, and for anyone who was around or raised within a household with people who were ill, I know that that heightened my sense of intuition, because it made me like sense, okay, when is mom not feeling well? What's going on with her? And it was no coincidence that it was in New Orleans when mommy was sick for 2 weeks that I didn't see her, and making sense of what was going on around me. And my dad, him also being really intuitive too, explaining to me in kid-friendly language what was going on, because I was feeling and sensing, I knew something was going on. But so for anybody who has gone through that and might be making sense or trying to make meaning of why things may have happened when they were younger, and especially with relative to illness, whether it be your own or family members, I firmly believe that that is a part of, and I know that we've spoken about in class, in our classes, and I know in some of your mini classes as well, Ivy, that is a part of the Lightworkers path.
It really is. And we can, and for those of you on TikTok, go through some of my recent videos over the last few weeks where I talked about intuition and trauma. And a lot of that trauma comes from childhood. So again, like Danny said, whether you're born into a family where there's like disease or illness or some kind of tragedy, might occur, even loss of loved ones, or it was abusive, it was toxic. You were born into a society that's sort of, brutal against, whether you're marginalized, you're a minority. There are all kinds of things that trigger. And so if you're wondering, well, how do I know if I have a healer's contract or a lightworker's contract? Look at the patterns. Look at how the system you were born into and the things that have occurred. And then you guys can also book life contract reading with me at any time, an astrology chart with Christina, numerology with Danny, and we could take a look and see what's written in there. But these are all major indicators. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's no coincidence that mom loves you and Paul so much. Like, aww. With y'all more than she is with me, and if that's okay, and I'm good with it. It's just they
hide from their kids more. I think it's funny because I get these visits from your mom, and I get little bits and pieces, and then I feel like I see this with so many mothers that come through with their kids. They almost stand back. Mm-hmm. It's like they're better able to manipulate things, and I think they're better able to help you when it's not like I'm here, because then all you're paying attention to is the fact that she's there.
Right, that's so true.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Parents are smart. Spirit is smart. Paul, what were you going to say?
Just a little bit more about, say, detachment. I feel that, having everything kind of piled on lately, with I feel like more paranormal stuff has been coming out, and like being a Gemini, it's pretty easy. So it's like to be mindful for anyone out there who's like, again, dealing with people all the time and not helping. Be careful for people that are like deliberately confused, we'll say, and they're like, when you see that it's really just there to waste your time, waste your energy, like with the paranormal things, it's, I noticed like 90% of those booking those, it's like, they just, can you send me this again? Can you do this? Can you do that? And it's like, no, it's right there, and you have to step back and let them figure it out and just say, hey, they're going to get there, and you can't waste all your time because they're doing that to you on purpose, So Detach, definitely know when it's a real concern. So, hey, if someone honestly can't find something you sent them, okay. But every time you send it, just realize this. Be mindful that people are out there trying to take your energy, and to detach, and if you have it in your chat and it's easy to do, fantastic. I find that it's a skill of mine. So I can say, all right, well, sorry, and move on. But, just I want everyone to know that it's an honest to goodness, real approach, real attack. And if you're out there helping, just definitely be mindful of the deliberately confused.
I had to, took a while to train, Paul, when he started taking over parts of this business, right, this ministry, to understand how to protect his energy and not feed it. Don't feed people who are being deliberately confused, who are trying to stress him out, who are telling him repeatedly, I didn't get that, or it doesn't make sense, or it's not there, the website isn't working, or this or that or the other, or they waste a lot of time booking something very simple and then don't want to, go ahead and make it official. These are ways that we get attacked, whether it's in the healing business, it's the lightworking business, even, whether we're looking at something more traditional or clinical, we're looking at something that's a little bit more like, new age, let's say. It doesn't seem to matter where or how we're out there working. It is a manipulation tactic to strip us of our energy, to strip us of our patience, to strip us of our ability to give from a place of unconditional love, until you're at this burnout place where you just want to wring everyone's neck and you don't want to help anymore. And so it's really important to pay attention, whether it's on social media in your comment sections, or, people are always private messaging you. Can I just ask you this? Can I just ask you this? Me, all the time. Or they don't want to help themselves. You give them help. You give them a healing. You give them a reading. You give them the advice that Spirit wanted you to channel, and they're not even listening to you anyways. You have to know how to make sure that you are getting some kind of reciprocity there, whether it's actual payment ahead of time before you show up so they can't stiff you, or it's saying, you know what, I'm going to healthy boundaries in doing this work, because they will take the boat down. There is no doubt about it. And not all of them are there actually wanting the healing. A lot of people are basically there as a test, to
Did we lose Ivy?
I'm so sorry. I believe
you want to avoid. Yeah. Okay. Did we have questions and comments coming in here that we want to get to?
Christina grabbed the question we had.
Okay.
But this is we have a comment from Jill saying, "Oh wow, thank you for sharing this," and that was echoed to a few people on TikTok as well who are glad they tuned in for this one. This is helping them a lot. I think the overgiving is it's a tough one.
It is, and I think that we feel guilty. So, closing remarks from you guys, and then we'll get into prayer and healing requests here. But I think that a big part of it is that we've been guilted, especially in the spiritualist community, to give to this unconditional toxic point where we're not supposed to ever have failure, anger. We're not supposed to be sexual creatures. We're not supposed to be foul mouth. You're not supposed to swear. You're not supposed to, it's this holier than thou attitude. And it's not just in the spiritualist community. It's obviously rampant throughout, the churches and a lot of religious orders. And the reality of the situation is, hey, when you're a light worker and you're a healer and you're taking more of a beating than anyone else on the planet Earth, okay, you're entitled to have that kind of judgment and that off-putting feeling a lot of the time. It happens. You're a spiritual being having a human experience, dealing with other humans that are the majority of the time out of control and mindless and needy. And it's okay to be honest about where you are. And it's okay to say, all right, I don't feel like doing this anymore, but I'm gonna cleanse that out. I'm gonna get back on track, and to give yourself the boundaries that you need to continue to do so. Okay, so let's allow it and judge ourselves less for that. Did you guys have anything else to add to this?
Good. One of the things, and I think this aligns with everything that we've been sharing during our sermon tonight, is especially with Ivy, with your Fighting the Dark class, when we're about to go for something, when something is on our life contract and we're meant to pursue it, and it's something that we deserve. It's like, I so appreciate when you said like clockwork. You can set your watch by something trying to put an obstacle in your way, something trying to deter you from that particular opportunity. And the thing is, which more than likely has your name on it, the thing is, and I so appreciate when you share, when you say that when those obstacles come up, those are actually more of an indication that we're on the right track versus not. Because one of the things that it just breaks my heart to see is when people consider dropping out of something, stopping to apply for something, completely giving up an opportunity in any aspect or realm of their lives that could really enhance their lives and help them to level up, but they're going to give it up because they think that the obstacles are a sign that they shouldn't do it. And it's just, please, no, keep going. And know that when the number patterns, I love when you spoke about the number patterns, when we see triple numbers, the 333, the 777, the 1111, when our eyes are diverted to our telephone, our microwave, our stove, the clock in the car, those are angel messages. Those are the angels coming through. Those are ancestors coming through, reminding us at those moments when we're thinking about giving up to say, no, keep going. And please look up the meaning of those triple numbers, because they are absolute messages and they are precise with timing. So there's no coincidence when your eyes are diverted to a clock and you see a triple number and you are on the brink, or you might feel like you're in a fork in the road. That's no coincidence at all.
And numerology is really its own separate language, and a lot of people have it everywhere from the time they were born, right? And they have death dates and birth dates and everything matches. And there are people like that. And then there are other people that only notice it from time to time. Paul, if you could put Danny's numerology class in the comments here. For those of you who want to study numerology, it's around you all the time. You want to learn more. I would highly recommend to get, educated on this. And I just want to recommend also one of the free mini classes here on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube at Ask Ivy, go to the playlist and look up a free mini class called Fighting the Dark, where I break down the 5 different key ways where it's what Danny was just speaking about. New level, new devil. Every single time you are about to level up, you go through attacks. And light workers and healers just go through this process so much more frequently, not because we're being punished or, necessarily tested even, but because we level up so frequently. It is a constant growth process, and we have to be prepared. Heaven forbid we should back down and cost ourselves, some huge opportunity. Yeah, it happens all the time because we feel that kickback from the universe. Life gets really hard. Everything appears to be falling apart. It's a sign that you're going in the right direction sometimes. Don't back down. Be careful. So true.
I think too, like you always remind me to ask my spirit guides for help, to ask the angels for help. So I've been trying to do that more. And I think that helps as well when you're, a healer and you're trying to navigate healing and trauma and all that stuff. So that's one of the things that I think has really helped me.
Yeah. Amen. Stay in touch with your ancestors and your guides. Absolutely. Paul, did we have questions or comments, extra ones coming in here? Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, did you have anything else to add, or do we want to get into prayers and healing requests?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, you guys. So we are at this point going to go over the prayers, the healing requests. If you have anything additional, go ahead and type it in now. We're going to let Paul lead this. And for those of you tuning in later on, you can catch this anywhere there is a podcast. back here on YouTube at Ask Ivy in the playlist, and you guys can type in later your prayer and healing requests. We do go back over these, so later is okay as well. Okay?
Okay. We have one here from Jill, who's looking to have more strength and mindfulness of her energy. Let's look this up and claim that to Jill. And I want to add one here for anybody struggling with the loss of a pet. To find the strength to move through this and to know that the pet, your loved pet, is still with you always. And that you will have the strength to move on through that. So I want to claim that for anybody in that situation.
Okay, I just want to add to this prayers and healing intervention by angels, guides, ancestors to all of our fellow light workers and healers out there who are struggling to figure out whether or not they have mental health problems, they have physical conditions, they have, especially things like anxiety and depression. They don't understand energy overload and where it's coming from. Okay, I ask that they are given the guidance that they need and are brought here to cross our path so that they can be educated on what's happening and start controlling the energy to make them stronger in themselves and stronger as healers and light workers to go out into the world.
I'd also like to lift up Nancy Rosas, whose family in Guatemala were diagnosed with COVID. Praying for especially her brother's recovery and that their entire family heals as perfectly and well as possible.
Amen.
This one's from Melissa. Looking for prayer for her daughter, Stephanie. She was a passenger in a huge car accident. And lots of injuries. Please pray for Stephanie, and Melissa, and anyone involved. Strength, healing, and skill for the doctors. Claim that for them.
Amen. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being with us today. Again, feel free to leave a donation. Feel free to subscribe. We will see you for our midweek prayer and healing service. Should you need that, we usually do that around Wednesday or Thursday, so keep an eye open. That'll be here on TikTok and on YouTube. Again, if you want to listen to previous services, you can go anywhere there's a podcast or here on YouTube, hit the playlist under Roots Revival to listen to all of those. And hope you guys have a great week. Hope this helped to strengthen you. We appreciate your feedback and any future sermons that you would like to see us do. Please type that in the comments here and do share this information with others. You have a social media account, be a healer. Take this, get it out there, share it. We need to come together more, having these sort of candid discussions, right, on what's really going on and get away from this airy-fairy concept of like perfection. All right, we need to get real about this. It's tough times, but we're doing great things and we are definitely in the awakening. It's exciting times. Thank you, Danny, Paul, Christina, for being here. And I will see you guys next week. Thank you, Spirit.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's wonderful being here.